NnamdiKanu has raised a very serious point in his case before the court. He's saying the government cannot proceed with charges against him because there's no law backing the charges they've brought. Kanu's legal team has argued that there's no valid statute under which the government can hold him. Kanu said clearly in court, "You cannot ask me to open my defense when you cannot even specify under which law I am being charged. Please help me like this video, subscribe to the channel and share." Now, what's interesting about this is that Kanu's lawyers have pointed out that in the court records, there is no law supporting the charges. The implication here is huge. If there is no law to support the case against him, there is really no case at all. He's asking for his immediate release because, according to him, there's no basis for the charges. So, what does this mean for the case going forward? It's raising big questions about the way criminal trials work in Nigeria. How can you bring someone to court if there's no clear law backing the charges? It's one of those questions that doesn't just affect Kanu, but could have broader implications for the justice system in the country. His lawyers are pushing for the case to be thrown out entirely. They want the court to take notice of the lack of legal grounds and release him immediately. Now, the court has not made a final decision yet. The prosecution is still insisting that the charges stand. But this challenge is important because it goes right to the core of fairness in the judicial process. If Kanu is right, then this could set a huge precedent for how trials are conducted in Nigeria. What happens when the law is not clear or is missing altogether? Should people still be detained or tried? Kanu's legal team is saying no, he should be freed. The question is, what does this mean for other high-profile cases in Nigeria? If this case is dismissed on the grounds that there's no law to support it, it might send a message that no one should be detained or tried without clear charges. And if the court decides to proceed with the trial, despite these legal challenges, it could open the door for other cases where the accused might also challenge the legality of charges. Kanu's case isn't just about him, it's about how justice is applied. If the court sides with Kanu, it could push for better transparency in the legal system. It could mean that authorities must be more careful when bringing charges against people and ensure that those charges are grounded in all clear existing laws. Or it would be a win, not just for Kanu, but for anyone who has faced similar challenges where laws aren't properly applied. But let's talk about the bigger picture. This isn't just about a legal technicality. We know that Kanu has been a controversial figure because of his role in the Biafran independence movement. He's been outspoken about Nigeria's handling of the Southeast, and his case has always carried political weight. Whether or not Kanu is right about the charges, this case will have a political impact. A dismissal of charges could be seen by his supporters as a win for their cause. But of course, it's not that simple. The government is likely to push back hard. They'll argue that Kanu has been part of an illegal separatist movement and that he needs to be held accountable. But legally, if the charges are flawed, then his supporters will say this is proof of a miscarriage of justice. It's a situation that could divide opinions further, especially since Kanu has such a strong following, but it could also raise broader questions about political freedom in the country. Now, the clock is ticking. The court has yet to make a decision on Kanu's motion, but whatever the outcome, the result could shape how future cases are handled in Nigeria. It could push for better legal accountability or raise doubts about the fairness of high-profile political trials. Either way, Kanu's case is one that will be watched by many. Now, as the case continues to unfold, let's consider the potential outcomes. If the court decides to rule in favor of Kanu's motion and agrees that there's no legal basis for the charges, it would be a quad game changer in how cases like these are handled in Nigeria. The legal implications would be enormous. It could push the government to reevaluate how they bring charges against individuals, especially in the high-profile cases like this one. On the other hand, if the court decides to proceed with the trial, Kanu's legal team might continue to challenge the court's jurisdiction,
questioning whether the case can even be heard under the current circumstances. This could lead to further legal wrangling and delays, and we could see the case dragged out even longer, keeping the attention on the broader issues of justice and fairness. What's also crucial to note here is the partners' international aspect factors of the case. Kanu has gained significant support from the global community, especially human rights groups. These groups are already saying that his detention violates his rights, particularly in terms of due process and fair trial standards. If the case continues, international bodies could weigh in, potentially adding pressure on the Nigerian government to reconsider its approach. The fact that Kanu's team is focusing on the lack of law it sits as a defense is significant. It's not just about fighting the charges, it's about exposing flaws in the system. If Kanu is released because of this legal challenge, it could serve as a wake-up call for the justice system. It would be a strong message that individuals should not be tried without clear and transparent legal grounds. Let's think about the ripple effects for a moment. If Kanu wins this case, it could spark similar challenges in other cases where individuals could argue that the charges are based on outdated or invalid laws. This could cause a major shift in the legal landscape of Pasapa of Nigeria, leading to a more robust and fairer system. The message would be clear. No one should be prosecuted without a solid legal basis. Of course, this case isn't just about Kanu and his supporters. It's about the wider conversation on separatist movements in Nigeria. Kanu's IPOB is pushing for the creation of the Republic of Biafra, which has stirred a lot of controversy. The Nigerian government views IPOB as a terrorist group, while others see it as a movement for self-determination. Kanu's trial has always been more than just a legal matter. It's about the political tensions in the country. So, what could happen if Kanu is released? It would strengthen his position within the separatist movement, and his supporters would see it as a major victory. On the flip side, it could also embolden other separatist movements and calls for independence within Nigeria. The government would need to carefully navigate these waters, as a ruling in Kanu's favor could create more pressure on the unity of the country. But if the trial continues and Kanu is convicted, that would send a different message altogether. It could be seen as a crackdown on dissent and would likely fuel further unrest in the southeast. It would also further stoke the fire of political divisions in the country. The public reaction to the outcome would depend on where people stand on Kanu's cause. But one thing is for sure, the court's decision will not go unnoticed. Let's also consider the human rights angle. Kanu's supporters have consistently raised concerns about the conditions of his detention, the legality of his extradition, and his treatment by security agencies. If the charges against him are dropped, it would not only be a personal victory for Kanu, but it would send a message that human rights violations cannot go unchecked. In countries with histories of full-blown political repression, these types of cases have the potential to set important precedents in terms of how people are treated under the law. Now, if the prosecution fails to provide a valid legal framework, there's a strong argument that not just Kanu, but anyone who faces invalid charges should be treated the same way. This case could serve as an important reminder to the Nigerian government that the rule of law matters, and it cannot just lock up individuals on shaky grounds. As we wait for the court's ruling, one thing is certain. This case is going to shape the future of Nigerian law and how courts deal with politically sensitive issues. It's about more than just Kanu's fate. It's about justice, fairness, and the legal standards that should govern every trial. Let me know what you think about all of this. Do you think the court will agree that the charges have no legal foundation? Or do you believe the trial should go on? Regardless of these challenges, leave your comments below and don't forget to like this video and subscribe.
for more updates.